Good afternoon. Today I want to talk to you about the importance of social media marketing, especially when it comes down to the microcosm of small businesses. Social media marketing is different than conventional marketing because it allows for there to be a connection between you, the user, and me, the producer of whatever service your business may produce. This gives it an edge because it can create a close knit relationship between the buyer and the user, and I can make tricks like this to capture your attention in order to continue talk to you about my services and products. This is one of the reasons why I find social media marketing such a powerful tool. Without further ado, we're going to go into the details since I have your attention and make it a little more boring. So let's get going into that. All right, now that we are back into my computer, we're going to actually discuss what YouTube is. So, YouTube is part of Google. Let's talk a little bit about the history here. It is actually the daughter company, like I said, of Google. As we know, Google, it is the search engine company, now synonymous with any time that we want to actually perform the action of searching online, which is to Google something. It is actually quite a big company. It has a really good stock as well. But that's digressing. YouTube shares a similar model to Google. They are both search engines. The thing about YouTube though is that it is a search engine based on videos and to a degree some audio. Why is that important, you may ask? It's really important to understand that when people go to YouTube, they go with a purpose in mind. So let's say you are a business that revolves around photography and you want to showcase your photography. So how is it that you would showcase that in YouTube, you may ask? Well, it's an easy way. You can start creating tutorials that would teach people about how to take photos. By doing this, it will differentiate your business, giving you an edge over your local competitors, and making you connect to your audience. And as we know, it is easier to buy from somebody that we like than from somebody that we do not like. So it is actually really important because of that. One of the important things about YouTube is that it boasts a reach of about 2 billion users currently, and that is only a fraction. It is expanding and continuing to grow. Eventually, we will reach basically everybody in the world, but infrastructure is just not quite there. Now, YouTube is mostly used as a tool for entertainment by millennials and boomers, and this is interesting as well because the baby boomers are a new group that is adding a lot to YouTube. They have actually grown exponentially over the past 2 years and are one of the most users, the biggest users, one of the biggest users in YouTube. As we also know, the younger generations are migrating to other social media platforms, and YouTube is sort of becoming more of an old school media platform. So it's something to keep in mind. So whenever people go into YouTube, they go with a different set of mind and expectations as opposed to somebody who goes to TikTok who wants something a little more quick, a little more entertainment. There is such a thing as how-to and instructional videos on TikTok, but since they are so small, you cannot really dive into the details. YouTube does not give you a timeline limit, so you can really get into details about your craft. Let's discuss the uses of YouTube. YouTube has multiple uses. A resource for teaching. If you happen to be a business that wants to explore the idea of marketing online, they can use YouTube to upload instructionals for processes within the company. Like I mentioned before, if you happen to be a photographer and you want to bring your audience into what it is to be a photographer, you can show how-to videos as to how to take your photography, with some control over the information that you're giving because you don't want to give everything out. You are, after all, a business that relies on the need of this information to be kept, but it is important to give some value, not just all of it. Now, a good important thing about this is that it does open up the ability for you to create products which you can then sell to your audience. Marketing. It is really important to use YouTube in order to bring attention to your business by creating an audience. This audience can be converted into sales for your actual services, or you can expand your current business. If you do not have services like shirts, maybe swag, things that you can sell, if you happen to build an audience and if you happen to teach people how to, in this example, take photography lessons or take photos properly, then those people are already primed to be sold something that you may create. A public relation tool. It is actually quite important to have an audience on YouTube because you can talk to them about updates that may be coming onto your business. It may be important to talk to them about a pivot that you may want to create onto your business, a new direction. It is actually a really important tool to use when it comes down to public relations. You can watch videos to learn new skills. Now, if you happen to be a business and you want to increase the services that you provide, it is actually a great tool to go in and learn new skills. Now, these skills that you are learning can then be leveraged to teach your audience further. So, YouTube, fantastic for these things. Now, you may be wondering, that's all fine and dandy, Jeff, but how does that apply to me? Well, it is actually, like I said, if you happen to have a business, that's great. You can go ahead and use it for all these other things. But if you don't happen to have a business and maybe you want to get a side gig, it's actually quite useful for that too. Remember, the audience that you create is primed if they happen to like you in order to buy products from you. But more importantly, you don't even have to sell products in order to actually make money off of YouTube. If you get enough people, the metrics are 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of watch time. You can sign up for their AdSense program. The AdSense programs allows you as the creator to make money off of the ads that YouTube is making money off of. Meaning that if you happen to capture people's attention for a good period of time, YouTube then uses this to capitalize and sell the person ads, which then this time gets sold to a third-party company for them to pay. Now this ad creates revenue, which YouTube shares with the creator. So if you don't want to, maybe you don't have a business that you want to showcase, maybe you happen to have a cool little hobby that you have or you want to showcase, this is a good way to make money off of that little hobby. Now, how is it that you make a channel? This is the important thing, right? In order to start using this tool, we need to make a Gmail account. The suite gives access to more than just YouTube. It gives you access to word processing. It gives you access to a number cruncher, basically sheets like Excel, a place that you can actually keep your bookkeeping in. So it's actually really useful for that too. So that's important about Google. Once you actually create a Gmail account, you can head to YouTube and begin the process of creating videos in order to start your audience building. Now the process is outlined on this link below. This Word document will be accessible to all of you. So if you ever want to access this, all you have to do is access the PowerPoint, click on this link, and you can have a step written down information source for you to go ahead and create a YouTube channel. Okay, since this is a pre-recording, let's actually take the time right now in order to create this page. So I want to take the time for everybody to maybe, pause the video and go ahead and make a YouTube channel. Now I want you to think about a couple of things before you make the actual channel. Think about the name, right? More importantly. But before you actually think about the name, revolve the name around the content that you're going to produce. So if you are a business that does photography, make sure that your business and the content that you're producing revolves around photography so you can pivot your audience to your business. If you don't want to have a business and you just want to show your hobbies, it's even easier. All you have to do is showcase one hobby per one channel. It is important to niche down because people will know what you're all about. They will come to you as a source of information, accredited information, especially if you produce quality items, in order to find the information that they need, and this will actually create an audience. So it is actually really important to create a niche. Keep that in mind, okay? So whenever you create your name, revolve it around the niche. It'll be easier for people to find you. Think about how accessible the material to make your video is to you. No point in making a channel that you do not have access to the raw materials to make it, right? So let's say you want to make a channel about photography, but you don't have a camera. That kind of puts you in a burden because now you have to buy a camera, and the cost may be something that a lot of people cannot, overcome. So think about how is it that my hobbies or the things that I have access to will give me content, and how is it that this content will produce an audience. And now, another thing is this. The importance of answering number 1 and 2 gives you sort of the ability to post often. If you don't have access to the items, then you won't be able to make a lot of videos, and therefore you won't have a big presence on YouTube, especially now that it's becoming a little more competitive. So make sure that you nail down those first 2 questions, and number 3 being sort of the culmination of the process in which you nail down specifically what you want to talk about on this YouTube channel. Okay, so now that we are done with that first activity, this one is for you to take home and sort of on your own think about the first 3 videos that you're going to make. Think about the schedule. Think about how is it that you're going to be batching these videos, and go ahead and get out there and shoot. You know, it's the most important thing that you can do whenever it comes down to any form of expression. You have to think, theorize, then afterwards try. You know, give it a try. See if people are willing to engage with your content. Based upon that, you're going to make a couple of changes, and based on those changes, you can go ahead, learn from them, think again, and then try again. If you continue doing this pyramid process, you will see that your channel will grow from 0 to hero in no time. Okay, so now we have our first idea, we're ready to shoot, and we're going to go get this done in another time. Let's just recap what is it that we've already said. Why is YouTube important? As an individual, it is a good idea to get to know other people and expand your knowledge informally. Examples are, I learned how, my personal example is, I personally learned how to make bread out of a YouTube channel. Now I can use this skill to make some money on the side if I decide to make some bread for my friends and family. Or maybe I just want to like start making a little bit of a bakery down the line. I can start creating proof of concept. So a skill that was free obtained from a source can now be leveraged for money. After a certain, like I mentioned before, after a certain threshold of followers, YouTube will pay you. So even if you do not want to build a business, you can still get money out of the engagement that you produce off of your hobbies. It's something to keep in mind, guys. Now, if you happen to have a business, it's a wonderful tool when it comes down to free marketing, community creation, and engagement that leads to traffic to your own site for conversions, or it just gives you access to sell things immediately in YouTube. You don't actually have access to a link, but you do have access to share, like, where is it that you're getting your items from. So you can't share necessarily directly from your store, but you can share a link that will lead them to the store to sell. Now, if you don't want to engage in an entrepreneurial way, you can always use YouTube as a source to learn skills in the academics. Let's say in mathematics, this is a personal problem that I've always had. I go to YouTube often in order to check out maybe videos about how is it that I could like solve a problem, or a theory that I don't quite understand from different teachers. Sometimes it does help to hear from different people. So if you happen to only want to be a student, YouTube is still a great source because you can learn from other people out there. Now keep in mind, it is with a grain of salt that you should be absorbing the information from YouTube, because it is not factually checked. So keep in mind that you do want to take it with a grain of salt when it comes down to YouTube information, and scholarly articles are actually the most important and best source for citing when it comes down to your scholarly papers. But for general knowledge, YouTube is a great place to share. So another one of the reasons why we should be making a YouTube right there is plain and simple. Now, I did mention a YouTube channel that I started in order to create the research based that I based this conversation upon. This right here is a snippet of a channel that was started about 2020 in February, and as you guys see, there was a period of time that there was a little bit of movement, but then the person became a little bit upset that he wasn't getting that much traction, and they stopped creating videos, slowed down, and then completely stopped creating videos until they started again, stopped, and then started it again. Now I want you to keep in mind here, as you notice, when there is a consistency, the spikes do come. But when there is no consistency, even then there is some spiking, but not as much as when we post often. This is why answering those questions at the beginning of the activity is important, because if we nail down what the direction of the channel will be, we will have more of a direction on this later grouping than on this first grouping. It's about consistency. It's about making sure that your content is good and making sure that you actually like what you're putting out there, because remember, if you don't like it, people are not going to like it. So that pretty much brings my conversation about YouTube and how is it important to a close. One of the notes that I did want to bring forward is that this may not seem like a lot, right? It's only about 12,000 views, but if you think about the impressions, now we're talking about impressions of 101,000. Studies show that after 7 impressions, people are willing to take a look at your product. if these conversions, if these impressions were converted to actual sales, this potential business could be making about $14,000 in sales. Let's keep that in mind, guys. Super important to have a YouTube channel, because not only is it a great source, not only is it a great tool for marketing, it's a great way to bring your business to another level and making sure that you expand upon which you already have. It was a pleasure talking to you today. My name is Jefferson Susani, and this was my presentation on YouTube and how is it that we can use it on regular life and in business life. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.